Make sure you tip that server generously, sweetie." My younger sister shouted the words across the marble-tiled dining room. Her voice carried clearly over the soft jazz music, hitting every wealthy patron like a crack of thunder. You know how desperate girls from broke backgrounds can get. Some people just never learn how to succeed in life without begging. She was not looking at the waiter when she spoke. She was staring straight into my eyes, her lips curled into a smirk of pure malice. Sitting right beside her was Bilal, her husband of 7 years. He was the exact same man who had systematically drained my entire life savings, stolen my university fund, forged legal guarantees in my name, and left me stranded with massive debt while he rode off into high society. Miriam adjusted her diamond choker. She tossed a thick stack of 5,000 rupee notes onto the billfold, making sure every person at the surrounding tables witnessed her performance. She wanted everyone to see a wealthy woman showing pity to the poor. She truly believed she had won. She thought I was sitting 2 tables away, wearing an unbranded blazer, quietly choking down my pride just to watch her celebrate her anniversary. She had no idea that the owner of the entire 5-star hotel was already walking toward my table. And he was not carrying a dessert menu. He was holding a leather folder containing a forensic audit report that was about to rip her synthetic life to pieces. If you have ever had a family member stab you in the back, rob you blind, and then act like they are better than you, hit that subscribe button right now. Leave a like, settle in, and get ready for a story of patient, calculated justice. 7 years ago, my life was simple, focused, and full of quiet ambition. My name is Isla, and back then I lived only for one goal. I worked 2 exhausting jobs every single day. By day, I worked as a junior data clerk at a freight company, staring at spreadsheets until my eyes burned. By night, I tutored high school and college students in mathematics and accounting. I never bought new clothes. I never went to expensive cafes with friends. I skipped meals, walked miles to save bus fare, and put every single rupee into a locked savings account. That account was my entire future. It held nearly $40,000, which was the exact amount I needed for my tuition and living expenses to pursue a master's degree in data forensics at the University of Manchester. The acceptance letter was framed on my bedroom wall. It was my ticket out of poverty, built from years of relentless discipline and exhaustion. Then Bilal entered our lives. He arrived looking like the golden boy of the logistics industry. He wore sharp suits, drove imported German sedans, and spoke with smooth confidence about multi-million rupee government tenders. My younger sister, Miriam, was completely entranced by him. Our parents treated him like a prince who had descended from heaven to elevate our family status. Miriam had always been entitled. Growing up, whenever I studied late into the night and secured top grades, she cried to our parents, claiming I was trying to make her look bad. Whenever I saved my small allowances to buy something useful, she threw massive tantrums until my mother ordered me to hand it over to her. Miriam never understood hard work. She believed that anything I earned belonged to her by birthright. 6 months before I was scheduled to board my flight to England, Bilal came to our house in a state of sheer panic. He sat in our living room with his head in his hands, trembling with what seemed like genuine terror. He claimed his clearing agency was facing an unexpected customs audit at the port. If he could not deposit a cash security guarantee within 48 hours, his operating license would be cancelled, his shipments would be seized, and he would face criminal bankruptcy. He looked at my parents, then turned to Miriam and finally dropped to his knees in front of me. He begged me to help him. He swore on his mother's life that it was only a temporary escrow guarantee. He promised that the moment the customs audit cleared in 2 weeks, the funds would return to my account with an additional 10% interest. I refused immediately. I told him that the money in my account was not spare cash. It was my university fee, my visa requirement, and my entire life's work. That was when the nightmare began. Miriam broke down into hysterical screaming. She accused me of being heartless, selfish, and jealous of her upcoming marriage. She claimed I wanted to see her life destroyed because I could not stand seeing her happy. My parents immediately joined in. My father slammed his fist on the table, telling me that family always comes before personal ambition. My mother wept, telling me that if I let Bilal fail, I would be responsible for ruining my sister's future. Bilal produced official-looking documentation with state revenue stamps and a notarized repayment contract. For 2 days they wore me down with non-stop emotional abuse, guilt, and threats of disownment. Exhausted, emotionally broken, and desperately wanting peace in the house, I went to the bank. I signed the transfer authorization and wired my entire educational fund to Bilal's corporate account. 2 weeks later, I called Bilal to ask about the return transfer. His phone was switched off. I went to his office, only to find the doors locked and an eviction notice posted outside. The landlord told me Bilal had leased the space for just 3 months and had cleared out overnight. When I finally tracked him down at an upscale cafe, Bilal looked at me with cold, empty eyes. He did not look panicked anymore. He took a sip of his coffee and told me that the customs deal had failed. He told me his company had filed for limited liability restructuring, and that I was merely an unsecured private creditor. He looked me dead in the face and said that if I wanted my money back, I could hire a lawyer and sue him, but since the business had no registered assets, I would never see a single dime. I was shaking so violently I could barely stand. I turned to my sister Miriam, expecting her to be horrified by the fraud her fiancé had committed against her own blood. Instead, Miriam rolled her eyes and laughed in my face. She told me to grow up. She said Bilal was building a real empire, and that my little university dream was pointless anyway. She said I should be proud that my savings were being used to fund a real businessman who would take care of the family. 3 months later, while debt collection agencies were pounding on my door for secondary loans Bilal had fraudulently opened using my forged identity, they held a grand wedding at a 5-star beach resort. 500 guests attended. Flowers were flown in from abroad. Miriam wore gold from head to toe. When I refused to attend the wedding, my parents disowned me. They told the entire extended family that I was bitter, jealous, and crazy. They locked me out of the family house. I was left completely alone with zero savings, $20,000 in fraudulent debt, a cancelled UK student visa, and an eviction notice on my tiny rental room. I remember sitting on the bare concrete floor that winter, eating plain boiled rice under a single hanging light bulb. The room was freezing and the silence was deafening. I cried until my chest burned, but when the tears stopped, something inside me permanently changed. The naive, trusting girl died in that room. I made a silent vow to the darkness that I would never shout, I would never beg, and I would never fight in the street. I would build myself into a weapon and I would take everything back. I did not waste a single minute on anger. I took a low-paying job as an entry-level analyst at an international corporate risk management firm. I worked 18 hours a day, 7 days a week. While other employees went home at 5, I stayed at my desk studying corporate laws, forensic accounting, offshore financial structures, and insolvency procedures. I learned how shell companies hide assets, how tax evasion leaves digital footprints, and how arrogant fraudsters always leave a paper trail. For years, I lived like a shadow. I watched from afar as Miriam posted photos on social media of their luxury lifestyle. She showed off designer handbags, trips to Dubai and Paris, and Bilal's new sports cars. My parents praised Bilal at every family gathering, telling everyone that he was a self-made genius while pretending they only had one daughter. I let them talk. I knew people like Bilal. Con artists do not become wiser when they get lucky. They become careless, arrogant, and reckless. 4 years into my career, my hard work paid off. I was promoted to senior forensic director at one of the top financial compliance firms in the country. Shortly after, our firm was hired by a powerful commercial tycoon named Tariq Al-Mansour. Mr. Al-Mansour was a billionaire who owned luxury hotels, shipping ports, and commercial real estate across the country. He was known for being brutally efficient and utterly merciless toward anyone who tried to cheat him. During a routine supply chain audit for one of Mr. Al-Mansour's massive logistics contracts, a company name caught my eye on the database: Apex Global Logistics. It was Bilal's company. My heart thumped hard against my ribs, but my fingers remained perfectly calm on the keyboard. I did not rush. I spent 3 months quietly pulling every single tax record, bank transaction, customs declaration, and vendor agreement associated with Apex Global Logistics over the previous 7 years. What I uncovered was incredible. Bilal had never built a legitimate, profitable business. He had used my stolen $40,000 as the initial capital to register the company and secure private loans. To keep his lifestyle afloat, he was running a massive financial fraud scheme. He was forging invoices and using Mr. Al-Mansour's hospitality group as a fake client reference to secure rolling lines of credit from private lenders and commercial banks. Even more shocking was the foundational structure of the company itself. 7 years ago, when Bilal stole my money, he wanted to shield himself from personal liability in case the business went under. To do that, he had registered my stolen money in the founding charter not as a loan, but as an irrevocable Class A preferred equity stake under an old joint account registration I had signed. He had attached a clause stating that the initial investment carried an automatic 30% annual compounding penalty dividend if never formally bought out. Bilal was so legally illiterate that he thought burying my name in the founding charter would protect him from tax authorities while giving me zero power. He assumed I would remain poor, ignorant, and broken forever. He did not realize that because he never legally bought out my share, and because the company had expanded on paper, I was legally the owner of a 42% voting interest in the parent company. Furthermore, with the compounding penalty clauses he had written into the contract himself, his accumulated debt to my equity share exceeded the entire net worth of his business. He did not own Apex Global Logistics. I did. I compiled a 300-page forensic dossier containing every forged invoice, every fake customs stamp, every hidden bank account, and the complete legal ownership paper trail. I took the files straight to Tariq Al-Mansour's private office. Mr. Al-Mansour read through the documents in silence for nearly an hour. When he finally looked up, his eyes were cold and sharp. He looked at me and asked what I wanted to do with Bilal. I told him calmly that I did not want Bilal to just go to jail quietly. I wanted him to experience the exact same public crushing humiliation he and my sister had inflicted on me 7 years ago. I wanted them to realize that their entire life of luxury was built on a lie that I had the legal power to erase in a single second. Mr. Al-Mansour closed the folder with a slow, deliberate thud. He told me that our legal teams would prepare the court orders immediately, and that he would personally ensure the trap was set. The perfect moment arrived 2 weeks later. Maryam, obsessed with flaunting her wealth, decided to celebrate Bilal's 35th birthday and their 7th wedding anniversary at the Pearl Horizon. The Pearl Horizon was the most expensive, exclusive rooftop restaurant in the entire city, situated on the top floor of Mr. Al-Mansour's flagship 5-star hotel. Maryam invited 20 of their wealthy socialite friends, along with several high-profile investors whom Bilal was trying to lure into his latest fraudulent logistics scheme. She posted videos showing off the private dining room, bragging about how only the elite could afford to dine there. Through an old family acquaintance, Maryam found out that I was living in the city. Hoping to give herself one final thrill of superiority, she sent an invitation to my office with a handwritten note inside. The note said, "Come see what real success looks like, Isla. Maybe Bilal can give you a clerical job at his firm so you can finally stop living in a slum." She wanted to step on my neck in front of her friends. I accepted the invitation. On the night of the dinner, I arrived wearing a simple, perfectly tailored dark suit. I had no jewelry, no designer handbag, and no makeup except for a calm, cold focus. I took a small table directly across from their long, lavishly decorated VIP table. When Maryam arrived wearing an emerald green designer gown covered in gold jewelry, she spotted me immediately. A vicious smile spread across her face. She leaned over to Bilal and whispered something in his ear. Bilal turned around, looked at me, and let out a loud, mocking laugh that caught the attention of everyone at their table. Throughout the evening, Maryam and Bilal made sure every single person in the room knew I was there. Every time the waiters brought out silver platters of lobster, caviar, and vintage drinks, Maryam would loudly comment on how sad it was that some people lived their whole lives eating garbage while real entrepreneurs enjoyed the finer things in life. Bilal raised his glass to his guests, boasting about his company's upcoming expansion and how his visionary leadership had built an empire from scratch. The guests clapped and cheered, completely oblivious to the reality behind his words. Then came the end of the meal. The head waiter presented the bill in an embossed leather folio. The total was enormous, easily thousands of dollars. Bilal reached into his jacket with an arrogant flourish, pulled out a black corporate credit card and dropped it onto the tray. That was when Maryam stood up, looked straight at me, and shouted her mocking line about tipping the waiter generously for poor girls like her sister. The guests at her table laughed. Maryam looked at me with triumphant eyes, waiting for me to break, waiting for me to cry, waiting for me to walk out in shame just like I had done 7 years ago. I did not move. I looked at the grandfather clock in the corner of the dining room. It was exactly 9:30 in the evening. The double doors of the private hall opened with a heavy thud. Tariq Al-Mansour walked in, accompanied by 4 senior corporate attorneys in dark suits and the general manager of the hotel. The room fell dead silent. Even the wealthy guests at the surrounding tables immediately sat up straight. In this city, Tariq Al-Mansur was a figure of absolute power. Bilal jumped up from his seat so fast he nearly knocked over his wine glass. He quickly straightened his tie, smoothed his jacket, and walked forward with a wide, desperate smile, holding out his hand. "Mr. Al-Mansur," Bilal shouted with theatrical warmth. "What an incredible honor to have you visit our private event. Please, sir, join our table for a celebratory toast." Mr. Al-Mansur did not stop walking. He did not look at Bilal. He walked straight past Bilal's outstretched hand as if he were nothing more than empty air. He walked directly to my small table. The general manager pulled out a chair and Mr. Al-Mansur sat down across from me with deep, genuine respect. "Good evening, Director Ayla," Mr. Al-Mansur said, his voice ringing clearly through the silent restaurant. "I apologize for the interruption, but our legal team has just returned from the High Court. The emergency asset freeze injunction has been signed by the Chief Justice." Bilal stood frozen in the middle of the aisle, his hands still suspended in the air. The color drained from his face until his skin looked like chalk. Miriam's face twisted in confusion and anger. She walked over, her voice shrill and demanding. "What is going on here? Why are you calling my sister a director? Bilal, who is this man? Tell him to leave our private dining area right now." "Shut up, Miriam," Bilal hissed in a strangled whisper, his voice shaking with absolute terror. Mr. Al-Mansur's lead attorney stepped forward. He unzipped a thick leather briefcase and placed 2 heavy, court-stamped dossiers directly onto the center of Bilal's anniversary table, smashing the decorative sugar flowers on the anniversary cake. "What is this?" Bilal stammered, his eyes darting wildly across the legal stamps. "That is the formal execution of total corporate receivership, Mr. Bilal," I said, standing up from my chair and walking slowly toward him. The room was so quiet you could hear the air conditioning humming against the glass windows. "For 7 years," I said, looking directly into his terrified eyes, "you thought you got away with stealing my $40,000. You thought you were a business genius. But your accounting was just as pathetic as your character." I pointed to the legal document on the table. "When you incorporated Apex Global Logistics, you registered my stolen funds as an unredeemed Class A preferred equity stake to avoid corporate taxes. You included an annual compounding penalty clause of 30%. Today your company has total assets valued at $1.8 million. But your legal debt obligations to my equity share stand at $2.2 million. Miriam gasped, looking at Bilal. "Bilal, what is she talking about? Tell her she's lying." Bilal could not speak. His lips were trembling and sweat was pouring down his forehead, soaking his expensive collar. "Furthermore," I continued, my voice calm and completely steady, "you forged shipping manifests and commercial guarantees using Mr. Al-Mansur's corporate trademark to secure fraudulent bank loans. Mr. Al-Mansur filed a formal criminal fraud complaint with the National Accountability Bureau at 4 o'clock this afternoon." No, this is a misunderstanding," Bilal cried out, frantically grabbing the papers with shaking hands. "I have contracts. I have lines of credit. You have nothing," the attorney stated coldly. "As majority creditor and court-appointed receiver, Director Ayla has exercised her legal right to freeze every single operating account of Apex Global Logistics. Your corporate accounts, your commercial trucks, your luxury personal vehicles, and your private penthouse apartment have all been placed under immediate court custody. You can't do this to us." Miriam screamed, her voice cracking as tears of pure humiliation ruined her heavy makeup. "Oh, we are your family. How can you do this to your own sister? Look at our guests. You are ruining my life." I looked at Miriam with absolute indifference. "You were not thinking about family when you took my college money and laughed while I was starving on the floor of a rented room, Miriam. You were not thinking about family when you wore gold bought with my stolen sweat and told me to beg for scraps." I turned to the restaurant manager standing beside Mr. Al-Mansur. "Manager," I said clearly. "Yes, Director Ayla?" The manager replied. "The credit card this man provided will decline when you process it, because all his accounts were frozen 30 minutes ago. Please transfer the entire bill for this party to my corporate account." I reached into my pocket, pulled out a single 5,000 rupee note, and placed it gently on the table right in front of Miriam's shaking hands. "Make sure you tip the waiter, Miriam," I whispered. "You know how hard it is for broke people who don't know how to earn an honest living." I turned around and walked out of the restaurant with Mr. Al-Mansur and our legal team. Behind us, the entire dining room erupted into absolute chaos. Bilal collapsed into his chair with his face buried in his hands, openly sobbing, while his wealthy guests quickly grabbed their coats and rushed out of the room to avoid being associated with a disgraced fraudster. Miriam stood alone in the center of the floor, screaming and crying as the restaurant staff quietly began packing away the unpaid decorations. The aftermath was total and irreversible. Within 48 hours, the commercial courts liquidated the assets of Apex Global Logistics. To avoid serving a 10-year prison sentence for corporate forgery and financial fraud, Bilal was forced to sign over every single asset he possessed, including his sports cars, his watches, and their luxury penthouse, in a negotiated restitution settlement. Every single rupee that had been stolen from me 7 years ago was returned to my account, with every penny of compounded interest. My parents tried to contact me. They left dozens of desperate voice messages on my phone, crying about family forgiveness, begging me to drop the civil claims and give Miriam her home back. I never answered. I simply forwarded a copy of the original debt agreement Bilal had forged 7 years ago, along with a final message. You told me 7 years ago that family comes first. Now you know the price of crossing me. Then I blocked their numbers permanently. Today, Miriam and Bilal live in a rundown 2-bedroom rental on the distant outskirts of the city. Bilal works as a low-level dispatch clerk for a third-tier courier company, earning barely enough to survive while taking orders from supervisors half his age. Miriam deleted every single social media account to escape the relentless mockery of the very friends she spent years trying to impress. As for me, I used the recovered capital and my partnership with Mr. Al-Mansour to launch an independent corporate compliance and risk intelligence firm. We now manage financial security for the largest conglomerates in the region. People often say that the best revenge is simply moving on and living well. That is true. But watching the exact moment the people who broke you realize that you now hold their entire existence in the palm of your hand is a feeling nothing in this world can ever replace. Never rush your retribution. Work in absolute silence, master the rules of the game, and let time deliver the justice that was always yours. If this story gave you the satisfaction you were looking for today, make sure to hit that like button, subscribe to the channel, and share your thoughts in the comments below. Tell me, what would you have done if your own family betrayed you like this? Thank you for listening and stay tuned for the next story.